we've been speaking to a range of leading voices from across the spectrum, and just a short while ago I spoke to Uday Kotak, of course, of Kotak Bank, and also the current head of the Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, and I began by asking Mr. Kotak that the budget was meant to do several things, one of which, importantly, was to try and raise demand, to get consumers to spend more. How, Mr. Kotak asked him, did he believe that the budget specifically achieved that?
See, I think the way you boost demand is by ensuring that you create more and more monies in the hands of people so that they can spend. So I think this budget has done a phenomenal amount of spending in the area of healthcare, infrastructure, cleaning up of the financial sector, and a whole host of areas where money will be spent. We have taken a call to run with a higher fiscal deficit, but ensure that growth happens. So when that money gets spent and we end up with a higher fiscal deficit, that automatically is demand positive as well. So there is a significant push towards capital expenditure, which is the spend, but which creates the demand because of the money is going in the hands of people.
Right. But the question is then about the money, because the government itself is projecting that its revenues are going to come down. They've already revised this year's revenue downwards by 5 lakh crores. Next year, they'll be saying it will be 2 lakh crore, even below that. So where is the money going to come from, Mr. Kotak?
I think the plan obviously is to have a combination of a systematic approach between the government and the RBI for additional financing which the government needs. And essentially, that would either be through higher borrowings in the markets or some monetization of the deficit depending on how much RBI wants to increase its own balance sheet. So a combination of these will be the factors. But look at the positive side. The money is not going into revenue expenditure. It is going into capital expenditure.
Okay. By capital expenditure, of course, you mean the spending that the government does on roads and highways and so on. And you're right that the government saying it is going up by 35%, but that is still just 1 lakh crore over last year. Is that a significant enough amount to turn things around for an economy the size of India?
It is a multiplier effect. And by spending that money, I think some bit from 4.39 lakh crores to close to 5.5 lakh crores. That is, if you go back to the additional borrowing program for next year, which is about 1.5 lakh crores, bulk of it is coming because of this higher capital expenditure.
Right. Okay. So you're saying it's a multiplier effect. Let me ask you about jobs, though, because jobs are being taken. I mean, there have been job losses in the formal space, in the informal space. Where and how do you see the budget addressing that?
I think the key way to get jobs is to get the economic growth back, particularly in infrastructure and construction, roads, ports, various other areas of construction. That will create jobs for people on the ground. And I think the best way to create jobs is through growth across the board. And I see that as a way by which the government strategy is to create the jobs.
Right. But maybe the government strategy, Mr. Kotak, but the fact is that what we've seen in this past year, and especially during the pandemic, is the reverse. Corporates have either downsized, they've cut jobs, or they've gone in for salary cuts. How is the budget going to reverse that?
See, when the government spends, it creates a multiplier. For example, when they're spending on ports, roads, power, the check of the government additionally creates revenue streams for various people and creates actually physical jobs across the board. The corporate sector will get a cue from this. The time has come when India is spending big. Let's go out there, and instead of having a mindset post-COVID, which was constrictive, to open up and let's take advantage of the opportunities. So that is the big change as I see it.
Okay. Last question to you. Everyone was saying that this is a highly unusual time and we needed an unusual game changer kind of budget. Is this that budget, or is this more business as usual?
I think this is a bold budget. This is a budget which has taken the bold initiative of taking some risks by saying that we will borrow more money, but we'll go out and spend it on capital expenditure.
Right.
We will take the calls of being aggressive on in disinvestment and monetization of assets, whether it is by selling out of some of the public sector units, operating assets, or even land. So from that point of view, I do not see this budget as an incremental budget. It's a budget which is taking a bold call for growth. It has taken a calculated risk that as we take this bolder call for growth, it will mean a higher borrowing.
Okay.
So the crucial point for India is, if this budget has to really work and make happen, execution. That is the key for us to get the best bang for the additional buck we are now spending.